Greetings folks and welcome to the Electromaker Show. This is your midweek roundup of all things maker and embedded and lovely. And you may have noticed that we were missing a show last week, and that was for no massive reason. I had tonsillitis, which, as anyone who has had it will know, is the worst thing in the world while you have it, and then you take antibiotics and you feel better quite quickly. But that said, the time that I usually would be working on the show last week, I was very much in bed and feeling sorry for myself, so we have a couple of weeks worth of stuff to catch up on. And that includes talking about the Electromaker of the Month winners for last month, talking about Product of the Week winners, talking about a development suite of hardware based on the Swift programming language, which most people just think is Apple and iOS, and a whole bunch of other things. So without any further ado, let's get on with the show. We're starting off the show with a very short section on the Raspberry Pi Pico W, and that's because we've sort of covered this a couple of times before. The Raspberry Pi Pico W now has Bluetooth again, and we talked about this very recently because the Raspberry Pi Pico W got Bluetooth added to the C and C++ SDK, but for those of people who wanted to use it in MicroPython, they still had to wait until it hit the stable branch, and it has now done that. So across the board, in every possible way that you could imagine, the Raspberry Pi Pico W now supports Bluetooth. That's the big news here. And there's a blog here, which I will of course link in the description, from Eben, talking about just a few of the details you need to know in order to get this thing going. It's a pretty short blog, but it takes you through, all the steps you need in order to actually get it running. And this is Bluetooth and Bluetooth Low Energy, in case you were wondering. There is one thing that is mentioned here, and I will mention it. It's just that it says Bluetooth Low Energy. Specifically, we support Bluetooth Classic. Okay, specifically, we support Bluetooth Classic with the temporary exception of ACL-SCO, along with the BLE Central and Peripheral roles. This temporary exception thing, I looked up to try and find out exactly what that was about, and haven't been able to. Anyway, all of that is besides the point. It's nice to see that it's finally here. When the Raspberry Pi Pico W first came out, I remember I could almost feel the glee as they went to the comment section saying, "You've messed up this release. The way that you've done this means that there'll never be Bluetooth on the Raspberry Pi Pico." And Alistair Allen and Eben Upton were both people I spoke to very close around the release of the Raspberry Pi Pico, interviewed them for Electromaker, and both of them either during the interviews or as off the interview kind of quietly said, "I don't know where anyone could have got that idea from. This was a purely software-based decision, and there's going to be Bluetooth. It's just going to take time." Well, the time has come. Now, we're going to move on to something that I had earmarked to talk about on last week's show. It's something that has been making the rounds for a couple of weeks now, but I couldn't pass it by because this is the most interesting camera I've seen in a long time. It's a camera that doesn't use light. So, Paragraphica is a camera created by Björn Carman. We're on his website right now. And this is, it's a beautiful looking thing. And the first thing I thought of when I saw this front bit here is it reminds me of those moles with the amazing noses. And as it turns out, spoiler alert, if you go down far enough here, you will find out that this is actually one of the influences of it. The idea being that this is a mole that sees without eyes. It sees without light, which is exactly what this camera does, because this is an AI-assisted and image-generating device. To call it a camera is almost weird. This is a way of pointing a device in a direction and getting an AI to dream what it might be looking at. Now, I'm using a lot of artistic and fancy words to say that, but this is quite an artistic and fancy project. It's designed to be a beautifully aesthetic thing and to ask a lot of artistic questions alongside the tech. But the tech side of it is actually quite familiar. It is a Raspberry Pi 4 in there, and it is running the Stable it's using the Stable Diffusion API, which means presumably it's sending these tasks into the cloud and getting it to do the work elsewhere. Because I don't think that Raspberry Pi 4 will be able to make images using Stable Diffusion quite that quickly. However, it's still a very impressive device. The idea that you can just point it, as you're seeing in this GIF that is rolling round and round again, he's just pointing it in a direction down a street, giving it a particular kind of input, and without seeing the street, just using the location data of himself and the weather data, all from APIs. Again, the camera is not seeing anything. It's just knowing where he is, which way he's facing, what the weather is there, and then generating an image based on the geographical data, which is amazing. So there isn't a huge amount of information on the hardware side of things, although I'm believe from the way it's described that this is just a Raspberry Pi and a screen and a few rotary encoders that is connecting to Wi-Fi and using location data the same way that a computer or a laptop would. So it says here, the camera operates by collecting data from its location using open APIs, utilizing the address, weather, time of day, and nearby places. Combining all these data points, Paragraphica composes a paragraph that details a representation of the current place and moment. And then this is what is fed in to Stable Diffusion. Now, what we don't know is the secret source. Anyone who's messed around with ChatGPT or any of these AI tools will know that what you put into it is very dependent, what you get out of it is very dependent into what you put into it. There are people who are starting to create careers on coming up with prompts for AIs, which is a crazy sentence to say, but this is the world that we live in. One other notable thing is Noodle, something I've never used before, but this is what was used to create the web app that populates the screen on here. Just a nice, looks like quite a nice node-based way of working. On this side, here's the input and output functions from the Raspberry Pi GPIO pins, and then all of the things for the APIs and all that kind of stuff, and it puts it into the DOM, into the website here, and displays it all on the screen. Just a small thing. I haven't seen a node-based thing for web apps like that, but then again, it's not something I'm usually looking for. But yes, Paragraphica is a really lovely project idea. It's a really stunning thing in and of itself, but it also asks a lot of the important questions as to kind of how we are generating art these days. Do you go to a place and point a camera at it to get your own photo of it, or is that has as much worth as a photo of someone else has taken? If you generate your own photo based on your own prompt when you were standing there, is it as good as a photo taken by someone else? It's one of those weird things, and it's going to be those questions we're asking ourselves a million times as AI takes over pretty much everything. A super quick update on the CNLohr RISC V saga. Since we talked about the amazing Nixie Tube driver that he created, and you can see that in a couple of videos back, he has been working tirelessly, like several day-long streams, in order to add USB to this via bit banging. And in short, he's done it. You can now program these over USB, something that was not possible before. He still needs help on the project as well. So I'll leave a link to this video in the description. If you head to the GitHub page for the project, RV003 USB, you will see a to-do list of things that will allow this 10-cent RISC V chip to be able to work pretty much as an Arduino. In fact, one of the things on this list is Arduino support, something that I'm sure somebody would want to add, and I think it's something that Charles himself isn't particularly interested in adding. But yes, there were, as I said before, there have been multiple 7-hour-long streams in order to get this thing going, and it is just a fantastic achievement. On the off chance that you see this, Charles, yeah, congratulations. I think you've made the cheapest USB controller ever, a microcontroller board ever. Yeah, it really is quite an amazing thing. It is time for us to talk about our product of the week, which this time is the Grove Thermal Imaging Camera and Infrared Array. But before we do, we had our last product of the week on our last show. Usually there is a show in between, but obviously I was ill last time, so I couldn't. So it is also time that we talk about the winner of the last product of the week. And just in case you need a reminder, that was the Arduino Nano Every, which was one of the first upgrades to the smaller line of Arduino boards. It was the first upgrade to the Nano pretty much since the Nano came out. And it was a very interesting upgrade because it was sticking with an Atmel chip, but it did add a lot of extra niceness to it. And it still retained a very cheap price point. Now, of course, since then we've had Nanos that can do machine learning on the edge and Bluetooth Low Energy, but that's not the point. This retained the one thing about the Arduino Nano that made it as interesting as it was, which is the price. Anyway, thank you to everyone who entered this competition, but the winner was Vishnuraj A, who said they would like to make a mini quadcopter using an Arduino Nano Every, and will attach different sensors to it, like an infrared sensor or an ultrasonic sensor for surveillance and monitoring. Thank you, Ian, for the video. Well, thank you very much for saying thank you. It means a lot. And congratulations, Vishnuraj. We'll be in touch with you as to how we can get this prize out to you. Thank you to everyone who entered. We will continue to be giving away every product of the week that we have all year. And as always, you can enter with a hashtag, and we take a prize winner at random every single week. And with that said, let's get on to this week's product of the week. So, as always, it goes without saying that if you really want to know the ins and outs of this, check out the video from Robin Mitchell. He makes them in-house with Rich, who's one of the other members of Electromaker, and they make just incredible videos that are really beautifully produced and really go through things in a very structured manner. And Robin is an engineer as well, so it explains things in a way that I can't. I'm very good at waffling enthusiastically in an attic, not so good at giving concise product videos like this one. And so if you really would like to know in under 5 minutes everything you need to know about the Grove thermal imaging camera, do head to that video. I'm going to try and do my cut down explanation version that will be nowhere near as concise as theirs in less than 5 minutes. I'm sure I'm going to fail. But yes, in short, this is, as it says, a thermal imaging camera array or an infrared array that uses a Grove connector, which makes it very easy to connect up. If you have a Grove connector on whatever microcontroller you're working with, then you're not going to have to do any wiring up whatsoever. But in short, if you're looking for a very cheap thermal imaging camera, which is going to be way less accurate than the super expensive ones, I mean, you can spend hundreds on even just the sensor for one of those. But if you're looking for something cheap that is very easy to wire up and that will give you, as you're seeing here, a not insignificant actual picture, you could even use this for making a very cheap way of looking for problems on circuit boards is the first thing that came to my mind. Yeah, it certainly does look like something that is worth looking at. And as always, we will be giving away our product of the week. And if you'd like to enter this competition, the rules are incredibly simple. You just have to be subscribed to the Electromaker YouTube channel. You have to leave a short paragraph telling us what you would do if you won it, and the hashtag GroveIR. That's GroveIR as in infrared. And we will be going through every entry that is hashtagged with GroveIR on next week's show to announce the winner. So yes, product of the week, the Grove module, the thermal imaging camera from Seed Studio. There's a bear walking across the screen. I kind of think this is amazing in terms of its budget, really. And when I say its budget, I mean usually you're going to pay around 100 quid or whatever for any kind of usable thermal imaging sensor that you can attach to a microcontroller, whereas this thing comes in at under $30, if I remember correctly. It is, yeah, $26. And as you will see if you watch the video with Robin, along with the bear walking across the screen and him having to have the unit wrestled out of his hand at the end because he wanted to keep it so much, you'll see that it's actually a perfectly usable device. It punches very much above its weight at a hardware level. Anyway, let's get on with the rest of the show. It is time to meet the Electromaker of the Month winners for May. Now, if you're not familiar with Electromaker of the Month, this is our rolling monthly contest. Every month, a bunch of projects are submitted to the Electromaker projects site. And by the way, if you're not familiar with that, we have a project hub on our website. Anyone can put their project on here. You just need a free Electromaker account, and then you can head to upload your projects. You can even import your projects that you've posted to other websites to our platform. And at the end of each month, every single project that was posted that month gets handed over to a panel of independent judges. They go through all of the documentation, because at the end of the day, that's all that we have here. There's the documentation of your project, and they decide on 3 winners based on a number of different categories. The idea being that this isn't just the most technologically difficult thing that you could do. This is documentation. This is showing people their maker skills. And if you're going from absolutely no maker skills whatsoever to your first project using a few LEDs, if you documented that process well, you're just as likely to win as someone who is making an incredible smart car that is designed also to be a submarine, which is actually not a bad idea. So let's meet our winners for May, and the overall winner this month was a fantastic project called Emo, the DIY companion robot. And this thing looks incredible. It looks like a professional product. It looks like a kid's toy, essentially. But this is completely homemade. It's absolutely DIY. It is 3D printed, and all of the parts inside are wired together by hand. It uses a Raspberry Pi 4 and a bunch of different sensors, and by combining a Raspberry Pi 4 and a screen and a couple of a very interesting combination of sensors, a vibration sensor and a movement sensor on the one hand and a capacitive touch sensor on the other, which is on the head, it means that when you do actually lightly touch it on the head and it isn't being moved around too much, it registers joy, as you're seeing there. But as you're about to see, if you create too much movement around it, it will get upset. Just really simple little interactions like that, but it adds up to a whole lot. And yeah, as you're seeing here, if you flick it in the head, it will get dizzy. Just a huge undertaking to come up with something that works this well and looks this good, and an absolutely deserved first place. So this is from Coders Cafe Tech, who I believe have won things with us before. They make a lot of wonderful things. Congratulations. This is an absolutely fantastic project. I imagine it's going to get a lot more press than just on here. And you win the top prize for this Electromaker of the Month, which is a 150 Amazon gift voucher and a pile of Electromaker swag, including an Electromaker t-shirt and a few other things. And all of the Amazon gift vouchers, by the way, that we're giving away are generously sponsored by the people at Mouser. I know some of you will be watching this. Thank you so much for doing that. It means a lot that you are contributing to this amazing thing that we're able to do each month. So from one kind of robot to another, this is Paragraphica's Bluetooth robotic car, and I may have absolutely butchered your name. I apologize if that's the case. But But yes, this is a Bluetooth robotic car with a bit of a difference because, well, firstly, it comes with its own dedicated app. It uses the MIT app creator in order to create a bespoke app just for the car, which allows it to split between its 3 modes instantaneously. So if you look at the app capture here, you can connect and disconnect via Bluetooth to the car with that, but there's 3 versions of it. There's manual mode, where you can control the car from the app from Bluetooth, which is your sort of traditional Bluetooth controlled car. There's also the auto mode, which uses the distance sensor that's on it in order to detect and miss obstacles. And of course, voice control, which when you think about it is something that isn't that hard to add to something that uses an app, because Google has its speech-to-text synthesis built into the OS, but it's certainly not something I had thought of before. And another thing you may have noticed, you might get a slightly better view of it in this earlier image, is that this ultrasonic sensor is mounted to a servo, meaning that it can stop and actually take a look at its surroundings to make sure it's not too close to anything before making any further movements. It's just a really nicely implemented robotic remote control car. Yeah, you're just seeing it right there. So, there's not all that much more to say about it other than just what a fantastic build. It's not easy to come up with something like this that works so well and that moves this fluidly, especially when it's doing automatic movements. So, congratulations, you win our second prize of a $100 Amazon gift voucher. And in third place this month is Shakizat with a wonderful TinyML proof of concept. This is using the Arduino Nicola voice, which is the diminutive little Arduino board, which really is one of the special ones. The new Nicola boards are kind of mind-blowing to me. I wish I had a bit more time to fiddle with them, because they are these almost postage stamp size boards with a huge amount of utility to them. The Nicola voice, for example, can do on-the-edge voice recognition, which is what this project is showing. And what's happening here is an audio classification using edge impulse, which allows it to listen out, and right now it's hearing nothing, and then he says something which isn't the word that it's been searching for, and it says nothing. It says he says something, but it's not the word it's listening out for, and then he says Shakizat, and it recognizes the name Shakizat. And this is using a model that was trained using Edge Impulse in the cloud, and as you've heard me talk about, I've seen this done in real time a couple of times now. It's incredibly simple to collect training data, send that to Edge Impulse, and then re-download it and just deploy it onto your machine without any coding at all. The way machine learning has changed in the recent years is completely blowing my mind. So congratulations, Shakizat, you win the $50 Amazon gift voucher, and of course second and third place also win the same tidy pile of Electromaker swag, including t-shirts and stickers, and I think an Electromaker ruler, lots of cool stuff. And this project will be ongoing. So if this is the first time you've heard of it and you are someone who likes to make things, as I've said before, the barrier to entry is simply put your project on the site, document it, show the world what you are making. It doesn't have to be the most complex project in the world. It just has to be something with passion, something that you're proud that you made. Do let us know, because you could be the next Electromaker of the Month. Just a quick break to remind you that if you are watching this video on YouTube, it does actually have a marked effect if you check that you are subscribed to this channel and that you click like on this video and any other videos of ours that you watch. These metrics are not just for show, they allow YouTube to say, other people who are into hardware and hobby electronics and things might want to watch these videos. The same goes for the drop-down menu next to the subscribed button, although that is more of a utility for you than anyone else. If you click all notifications there, you will get a notification in the top right corner of YouTube that just says, there's a new video on the Electromaker channel, be that the Electromaker Show or the Electromaker Product of the Week episodes. However, as always, the best way you can support the show is by heading to electromaker.io/shop and taking a look at everything that we have for sale. Be that the first hobby Arduino kit that you're buying as a gift for someone, or maybe you're watching the show and wanting to get into this hobby for the first time. We have a bunch of different Raspberry Pi and Arduino based kits. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you know exactly what you're looking for from an engineering point of view, even in bulk, have a look on the store or just drop our store an email. You can find links to all of those things in the description of this video. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. Let's get on with the show. It is time for a quick funding website things, and if you're not familiar, it is the part of the show where we look at things that exist on funding websites. And I don't know if it's just the weather here getting hotter again, but I feel more and more insane the more I talk about the reason that we called it funding website things. They're things, Jim. Once again, we are on Crowd Supply, and we're looking at something that I find really quite fascinating, because this is a microcontroller-based development board which fits into a PCB with a bunch of different sensors and actuators on it, which might seem familiar to you because this is something that a few years ago Seed Studio put out, the Grove Arduino Beginner Kit, which was like any other Arduino starter kit, but it all came as one connected PCB, meaning that you could keep it all as one thing and never have to worry about even connecting things using these kind of Grove connectors. Or you could, of course, take it apart and put it into a box and use it for projects. And I thought at the time, and so did many other people who reviewed it, that it was such a wonderful idea. And someone's made this again, but specifically for the Swift programming language. Now, if you're not familiar with Swift, this is the language Apple put together for making Apple projects on Apple things. I've had a little experience with it. I wrote a few tutorials on just getting started, the basics of getting started with Swift in the past, both getting started with developing with Swift on Apple devices for Apple devices, and just installing Swift onto pretty much anything. I think it was a Raspberry Pi, and I literally just did, here's how you can install a Pi build of the Swift compiler, and it was not that fully featured, but it was possible. However, for something that is so locked into Apple, it's really nice to see something so seemingly esoteric as hardware that is targeted by the Swift programming language. And yet this is what this is. This microcontroller board is specifically designed for that. This is the SwiftIO Featherboard, powered by a 600 MHz MCU that can handle a wide range of tasks, and we'll look into the MCU in just a moment. And then this insane expansion board here, which has a lot of different objects and little devices that you could rip out and put into different configurations. And as mentioned, these are all connected. You can connect these all together without any soldering at all, but you don't even need to do that with these connectors that you're seeing here, here, and here, and here, because these all have hardware connection lines on the board before you snap them out. It's a thing I really like. There's a few other development boards that do that as well. And if you're interested in what that means, this has a temperature sensor on it, a button on it, a microphone on it, a humidity and temperature sensor on it. I'm assuming the temperature and humidity sensor are the same one, DTH11 or DHT11, the classic. Although I'm not seeing that here. I may, and I am waffling a little bit. But they also have an actuator, a light, a speaker, a display, and a motor. And as it says, there's no extra wiring. It includes a wide range of robust component boards that come pre-wired. So a potentiometer, a humidor, a button, accelerometer, a real-time clock. Oh, there's more. There's way more than I thought at first glance here. I thought I saw an RTC on the actual image of it. So yes, there's a real-time clock on there, a buzzer, a button, a potentiometer, a USB to serial converter, which presumably is for talking to this board via serial rather than having to use the programmer, and an LCD screen. So this isn't the first time that Mad Machine have done something like this. They've come up with a couple of hardware boards before. They've also had a Swift kind of starter kit, which was very similar to this, but it was more the kind of thing where you get a box with lots of different sensor boards that you could attach to a central computer. I think they also had something that looked like a crazy handheld, which was basically a screen attached to what looked like an Arduino board. In short, they've been doing this a while. And the hardware is very impressive. The NXP i.MX RT crossover series is an incredible series of MCUs. I have fiddled with them a very small amount back when we did a competition with NXP, but yes, a 600 megahertz MCU from NXP is going to be more than powerful enough to do most of your sort of Arduino level project design and way beyond that. And the Swift application is built on top of the Zephyr real-time operating system API. The framework itself, however, is really interesting because for years they've been working on making a feature-complete library for programming microcontrollers in Swift, and as you can see, there are classes for pretty much everything that you would imagine here. Analog in, a counter, digital in, digital out, digital in and out, digital out. I think... Oh, I can't remember if I saw a DAC on this or not. Anyway, it's besides the point. I was about to say if there's a DAC on it, I'm sure you could turn it into a synthesizer. I don't actually know if that's the case. There is a PWM out, so you could use that with overhead. Anyway, if you are interested in the Swift programming language, which is actually in and of itself a pretty nice language to work with the small amount that I have fiddled with it, as far as I can tell, or you are a Swift developer looking to do something a bit fun and use it outside of developing iOS apps or macOS apps, this is definitely something that is worth a look. Now, it's a pre-launch project. No idea how much it's going to cost when it comes out, but if you're interested in finding more, there'll be a link in the description, and you can always add your email address to the bar here in order to get updates on it. Now, moving over to Inkplate 5, and if you have watched the show for any length of time whatsoever, you will know what we are looking at here, which is very good, because we're not looking at anything, are we? Unfortunately, Vimeo, which is the embedded video platform that CrowdSupply uses, is down. And this has nothing to do with the guys from Soldered who make Inkplate. This has nothing to do with CrowdSupply. Nobody has made a mistake here. Just, yeah, the Vimeo, which was once the great hope for beating YouTube, is down. But if you've been following Soldered for a while, you know what to expect here. These are reasonably priced e-ink displays which have ESP32 development kits built into them. They have a fantastic Arduino library. I don't know if I should go over all of the details here because I've talked about them so many times, but in short, you will be getting a fast refreshed e-ink display. As far as I remember, this one takes about 0.2 seconds for a full refresh, but don't quote me on that. I'm just going on vague memory. And if we zoom all the way down here, 0.19 seconds. I wasn't that far off. But yes, Inkplate 5 versatile Arduino MicroPython compatible board features a recycled 5.2-inch e-ink e-paper display powered by an ESP32 microcontroller designed to effortlessly connect to the internet via Wi-Fi or other devices through Bluetooth. And yes, powerful microcontroller, internet connectivity, e-paper display, low power mode. I'm sure it doesn't take too many things to add together to think, oh, there's so many things that I could make with this. And in case you're interested as to exactly what the hardware of this has, again, this is not unprofessionality on anyone's side. This is just Vimeo, unfortunately, not being very happy. There is a feature and spec list just here, and there is on the back here all the things that you can expect. So Li-ion battery charger, so it has battery management on board, it has an SD card slot, it has the ESP32, of course, and an RTC battery here, or a battery for the RTC if you wanted to have a real-time clock. And of course, the ubiquitous ink plate, the plate of ink, I suppose you could call it. This is just where the screen attaches to it. So we've talked about various different ink plates before. Why am I still talking about them? Well, this one has one aspect to it which they've never had before, and that is that it is the most affordable one I've seen yet. So the Inkplate 5 is $79 for its most basic version. You can get a version with an enclosure for $89, and you can get a version with the battery included and the enclosure for $99, which is quite an incredible value kit. But interestingly, if you are able to source your own e-ink display of the right size, you can just buy it without the e-ink display as well for $59. So there's been various different kinds of Inkplate come out at various different types. We talked about the Inkplate 2 recently, which was the much smaller color display, which is sort of name tag sized. They've had really big ones out there, but that were a little bit more expensive. But yeah, $79 for the basic kit. And if you are interested in being involved in this, now is the time to do so, because they have raised $8,555 of their $10,000 goal. And you can head here and view the various purchasing options in order to buy one. And hopefully by the time that you come back to this website, the videos will be working again. We are going to close out this week's show by looking at Unihiker, which is a new project from DFRobot. It's a new project? It's a new product. It's a product that was once a project that they're now selling as a product, but it is a very exciting looking thing. So, Unihiker. This is a single board computer, but it is a single board computer with a few nice things built in. The first obvious thing is the 2.8-inch touchscreen that is attached to the board itself, along with, as you can see poking out the edge here, a few Grove connectors. And let's start by just looking at the hardware side of things, actually. If I skim down to here, you can see that it has, of course, the touchscreen, along with a microphone and a light sensor, a couple of push buttons, an edge connector, which I thought was quite interesting, and I2C Grove interface, two of them, in fact, a couple of IO Grove interfaces, and it says here, oh yeah, okay, I was about to get confused because I knew there was an accelerometer and a gyroscope on board, but I'm just not reading it right. Another couple of IO Grove ports there, and a separate accelerometer and gyroscope, along with a USB port for programming and a micro SD card slot. Now, this is an SBC. This has a Rockchip 3388 in it. No, that's not what it is. Which chip was it? The RK3308, which is one of the quad-core chips. It's ARM Cortex-A35. But that's not all. It has a coprocessor on it. It has a RISC V MCU attached to it as well, which is a very fully... I looked it up earlier today, and I've already forgotten most of the specs, but it is a pretty capable RISC V, which I believe has at least a 12-bit ADC and a 12-bit DAC on it, along with every other kind of integration that you would expect from an MCU. And this all will work straight out of the box, because the version of Debian Linux that they put together for it is designed specifically to work with all of the... to work with this board. They've come up with an entire library called Pinpong, which is a Python library. You turn this thing on and it will open a Jupyter notebook and you can just start programming it. And you don't just have to do that using USB. You can do that completely wirelessly. In fact, this video, by the way, if you want to get a really nice rundown of it, the video that you can select on this page, which I will link in the description, goes through all of this stuff, probably in a slightly more eloquent way than I am going through it right now. But yes, in short, you can use it. You can use it connected via USB, or of course, you can tell it your Wi-Fi credentials and talk to it that way, or you can use it as a hotspot and then program on it using a web interface, and that web interface will provide you with Jupyter. It will provide you with a browser-based version of VS Code, I am led to believe, and even a browser-based version of Vim. And if they're trying to impress me, they have. But yes, and a browser-based version of Thonny as well for MicroPython. It just looks like a really interesting spin on the SBC with a coprocessor for doing lots of things. It's a really new way of doing things, it seems. The setup of it, the hardware setup of it, looks very different. I'm really interested to see where they go with this edge connector, because surely they're going to be putting out a bunch of different baseboards to work with. However, one thing that I think this thing really has going for it, given the amount of stuff that's packed into it and given how powerful the onboard tech is the price. Because they are starting this at just $79. The basic version, or maybe the only version at this stage, I haven't dipped that hard into this, is available for $79.90 directly from DFRobot, which is kind of amazing for the amount of stuff that you're getting here. I should note as well that if you've seen this and you're already thinking, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get one of those, if you join their Discord group, you'll also get a free silicon case for it, which is definitely worth getting, because, yeah, if you're going to start playing with this thing out in the wild, as I'm sure it'll be easy enough to do, you are going to make sure you have a nice silicon case there. One thing I haven't really looked into yet is exactly how you would attach a battery to it when you are out in the wild and have it work nicely. Right now, all I can think of doing is just kind of holding it onto the back. But yes, small details. So yes, at first glance, the Unihiker single-board computer really does look quite fun. The built-in touchscreen is a really nice touch. The fact that it's designed to be connected to and programmed as easily as possible in so many ways is really nice as well. I haven't even mentioned the IoT stuff. This thing will act as a recording data broker for MQTT just out of the box, as far as I can tell, as far as they claim. Like one of the things that says here is, built-in IoT service. It allows users to store data through the MQTT protocol and provides real-time data access via the web browser. And all data is stored on the device as well. That's something I hadn't even mentioned. So if this is something that interests you, or if there is some glaring problem with it that I have missed, please do let me know in the comment section below. For just $79, it really does look like you're getting a lot in a very interesting new design. And as I said before, I can bet you that if they're releasing this now, they're going to be releasing some really interesting baseboards for it. Because doesn't this remind you a little bit of the microbit? This little bit at the bottom here. It reminds me of the microbit quite a lot. Anyway, the Unihiker from DFRobot. As always, there will be a link in the description of this video. That has been our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for the continued support that you are showing the Electromaker Show. And thank you to all of you who keep reaching out with suggestions and reaching out on the weeks when I'm off, like last week, just to say I hope things are okay. I do get those messages from time to time, and they mean a lot. When it comes to show suggestions, I really do suggest joining the Discord server. There's a specific section in the Discord server for that. And while the Discord server has a lot of members and there's fits and spurts of activity, I'd love it if that became a hub for everything to do with the Electromaker Show and the people who enjoy it. But for those of you who have been emailing me, you can continue doing that. That's no problem. Anyone can email me at any time at ian@electromaker.io about anything. Well, I mean, about anything to do with the Electromaker Show. I don't want you to email me about my opinion on the Star Wars prequels, for example. Unless that would make a good Electromaker Show section. Okay, I'm waffling. Thank you all so much for joining me on this week's show. I hope you have a fun, safe, and creative week, and I will chat to you next time.